Good evening and welcome to the third week of your transformational fund. Um, Before I jump into tonight's webinar and we go into next week's what we're going to be doing, I would like to share with you some of the comments and questions that came over to me during the week. And I would like to say that I really do love and appreciate when you do write in. And so I kind of know what's going on for you, and I can help you a little bit. And I do like being able to share them as well, because I think it's helpful for everyone to hear what is going on for each other. So before I share this with you, I do want to invite you to jot down any questions that you might have had regarding last week, anything you want to have help with, or any successes or other comments. All right, so the first email that I want to share with you is from Anne, and what she wrote is, I'm very excited to be on this journey. And then she says, I wish I could report with enthusiasm how great I'm feeling, but I know that will come. In other words, she's not feeling so great. She says she's coming off of a 40-plus year coffee and a daily wine habit. So this is a big deal for her, and I'm sure that she did not feel good for the first 7 to 10 days, if that was the case. And she does say that even though I'm struggling with slight headaches, I have a great feeling of well-being, and I know that I'm doing the right thing. So that was wonderful to hear and wonderful for her to share as well. And I think that our bodies do know, our minds do know when we are doing something that's good for it, and we innately know. She had also sent over a label to me to look out from a shake that she was considering incorporating into the cleanse. I'm so glad that she did. And I do realize that it's hard to know all the yays and nays when you're looking at an ingredient list. And it's a process, and you get better at it as time goes on and as you practice. So some of the things that were on there that I nixed was they used soy protein, which that's out of our eating right now because it's highly allergenic for a lot of people. And it was not organic soy, so that means it was GMO. And it contains sucralose in it, and sucralose is different from sucrose. Sucrose is actually table sugar, but sucralose is the same thing as Splenda, so be aware of that. And it's often snuck into some of the so-called healthy foods. All right, the next one is from Jolene, and she says, I don't know if this was, well, let me start here. She says, so far it's much easier this time than last, which she did a good 2 or 3 years ago. My success for this week has been because I planned out a few days of meals. I had some simple cleansing recipes, soups, salads, roasted vegetables, etc., and made 3 meals out of each of what she made. So she planned, and yes, planning is really helpful in this. And then she also says, I've been using the shakes for breakfast, and she's not using the powder, at least I don't think she is, but she's using the shakes from the recipes that are in your collection of recipes, and she's not hungry for hours. And this is cute. She says, I even cut out grains for the week, and she puts in parentheses, and that's after planning to take my full allotment of quinoa this week because I thought I'd miss it way too much next week. So far she's cut them out this week, and there's no cravings. Other than the fact that she's still missing her Diet Coke, it's still appealing to her. So I want to comment on that, and I'm hoping that the appeal for the Diet Coke will eventually go away. And although I still do have my moments, the Diet Coke was a big one for me too, although they're very few and far between. And I know for me that I miss the carbonation, so if that's what you miss, Jolene, go ahead and just put in some seltzer water. And it may also be the sweetener, believe it or not, the aspartame that you miss. It actually has amino acid in the sweetener called phenylalanine, and that turns into dopamine, which is a feel-good transmitter. So that's kind of interesting, and that can play a role in why you're missing it a little bit. She also shared that both of her kids had bad colds last couple of weeks, and she seemed to be starting to be coming down with it. And she was tired and became terribly congested, and she was a little disappointed that she was going to possibly be sick during the cleanse because she was hoping to be as toxin-free as possible, not have to take anything. But within a day, she found that she was fine and had no congestion or cold symptoms at all. And she's saying, might be coincidence from the food and the vitamins, but I don't think it is. I do think that when our immune system is not having to put out fires elsewhere in the body, including the digestive system, that it can more easily squash a flu bug. So I don't think that's coincidence. And then she also shared that she is doing this along with a friend, and it's really helping her to be accountable while she's doing that. So a partner does make it a lot nicer and sometimes easier as well. And then the last one here is from Maria, and she's also an alumni. She did this cleanse a year ago. And I just want to say that each time you do this, there's another layer that you go through because there's so much information coming at you. And again, depending on where you started out when you came into this, it can be overwhelming. You can only do so much. You can. And be proud of what you do. Okay, so Maria says, so far I have been feeling fantastic. I have increased 2 more hours of sleep every day. Yay, Maria! Before, she used to get 5 to 6 hours of sleep. That's it. And she's noticing that sleeping is making a big difference because she doesn't feel as tired. And when she does do her yoga practice, which is the Bikram hot yoga, 4 to 5 days a week, she enjoys it more. Her poses are longer and she feels stronger. And then she also states that she's been trying to eat clean in small portions 3 times a day and include everything that I've recommended, although she is having that she's finding that certain foods she feels bloated and gassy with, like beans, lentil soup, the Faya yogurt, as well as fruits, and she's asking why that is. And then she says, other than that, I feel great. So I'm hoping that with this webinar, it will answer some of Maria's questions. But I do want to address the Faya yogurt. Right now, the only yogurt that is allowed was allowed last week is the coconut and the goats. And this week, I would recommend taking out all dairy. Okay, so just do the coconut yogurt. Okay. Oh, one more. Christine had a question about the benefits of bone broth because I am recommending that. Bone broth has a lot of collagen in it, and it's great for our ligaments. It's wonderful for healing the digestive system, and I often recommend it for my clients that come in with digestive issues. And the side effect of that often is my clients will come back and their skin just looks absolutely fabulous and glowing. And part of that is there's less inflammation, but part of it, I'm telling you, I think it's the collagen in the bone broth, and I need to start drinking more of it. And again, you can make your own, or you can purchase it online. There's some small stores in the community that also make it. It's not cheap to buy, but it's well worth it. Okay, let's see. The only other thing I want to share with you is that there's been a great free event going on. It's called the Fat Summit, and the Fat Summit separating fact from fiction, and it's being led by Dr. Mark Hyman, and I've been able to listen to a few of these interviews. And what's been really exciting to hear is how what we're doing on this cleanse is exactly what they're talking about in regards to reversing diabetes, and weight loss resistance, and other chronic diseases. So this is exciting just to hear that what we're doing is being collaborated or corroborated. That's the word I want. Okay, so we're going to get on with how our gut is the second brain, and this is one of my most favorite subjects in the whole world for 2 reasons. One, it's such a our digestive system is so far-reaching as far as our overall health. And when I have someone come in and I treat the digestive system and I see their health turn around completely and they're able to get their lives back and do what they want to do, it is so awesome to watch. And two, a lot of you do know this already, it's an area where I've had my own personal problems and experience with, and I understand how debilitating a compromised digestive system can be. So it's an area that I do specialize in. Now, I don't know how many or how you all scored on the gut quiz, and actually would like to know. There's not a whole lot of you on the call tonight, so if you're not on the call, please email me and let me know how you did on this quiz, the hormone quiz, and the inflammation quiz, if you would. So, yes, our gut is our second brain. It literally is. It has its own nervous system. And our gut brain and our brain communicate with each other constantly. So a healthy gastrointestinal function is critical. Our entire body depends on the health of what's happening in the digestive system. It depends on the incoming of supportive nutrient-dense foods, the ability to digest these foods, the ability to absorb and assimilate these foods properly, and then the ability to eliminate the waste product that is a result of the digestion. Now, this sounds pretty easy and pretty simple, but there's a lot that can go awry. And we're going to find that out. You know, I would say that a compromised gut or digestive system is the #1 health problem in America because it can masquerade in so many other different symptoms and conditions, from fatigue, weight gain, mood swings, and all of that. This first slide, where I have listed here signs of a compromised digestive tract, these are pretty obvious. The next slide isn't so obvious. So obviously, if you're having heartburn, acid reflux, stomach distension or bloating after you eat, upper abdominal pain, indigestion, belching, gastritis, irritation pain, ulcers, constipation, diarrhea, which is called IBS, which is a wastebasket type of diagnosis. It's like if you got either one of these going on, or bloating, they don't know what's going on. You've got an irritable bowel, yeah. But usually when you get that diagnosis, the doctor kind of, washes his hands and says, I've diagnosed you, and there's usually not too much given to the patient to how they can treat that. And that's when hopefully they find their way to me, because I can help them. I wish gastroenterologists were much better trained and knew a lot more than they do. I really do. You can experience nausea, halitosis, undigested food in your stools, food sensitivities, colitis, and Crohn's. So these are pretty obviously associated with a compromised digestive system. But a lot of people don't realize that fatigue, eczema, low levels of B12 and B6, yeast infections, urinary tract infections, mood disorders including depression and anxiety, elevated C-reactive protein, hormonal imbalances, migraines, thyroid issues, autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, behavior disorders, ADD, autism, OCD, and fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. It can go on. Okay, Epstein-Barr. So these are not obviously associated. Sorry, this keeps on advancing itself. These are not obviously associated with the digestive tract, but I always look to that to make sure that there's nothing that we need to address. And lots of times, a digestive system, or there might not be overt signs if there's a compromised digestive system. If I see any of these, I always like to test, at least a stool test, to see what's going on. So our digestive system is one long tube, and each part of the tube has a different function. The entire system is about 15 feet long, and the digestion actually starts in the mouth, not in the esophagus, as this diagram shows. And we know it starts in our mouth because, I don't know about you, but whenever I've eaten cotton candy, it dissolves. So sugar and carbohydrates start to get dissolved by our saliva, which contains an enzyme. And then another area or another way that we start digestion is through chewing or mastication. And this is something that a lot of people forget about it. I do too. And we forget to chew. We might, 1, 2, 3, chew 1, 2, 3 times, and it goes down the esophagus. And the food is still pretty much in its whole form, which means that it's probably going to stay in your stomach a little bit longer and stay in your whole digestive tract a little bit longer because it's going to take longer to break that down. We haven't done it mechanically. So chew your food more than you think you need to. So this system houses about 100 trillion, that's a lot, of bacteria, which constitutes more DNA, about 10 to 1, than our own DNA. So these puppies, these bacteria, they pretty much own us, and we have to make sure we have the right kind of bacteria in us and not the bad, because they will start changing what happens in our body. What is the bacteria in our digestive system is called the microbiome. So it's the microbial bodies. It's in a biome, which is in the closed system. And it weighs about 5 pounds. And these are really important as far as turning our genes on and off. So we're born with genes, but we don't have to be those genes. So we need to keep these bugs happy and healthy. And let's see, what else do I want to say here? I think that's all here on this particular slide. So let's move on to our gut as our second brain is responsible for killing pathogens and parasites that can harm us, making the majority of our serotonin, which may surprise a lot of people. You think of serotonin and brain, but it's actually a lot of it made in the digestive system. So that's one way it can contribute to depression. It allows our B vitamins to be available, another way that it contributes to detoxification and also making a neurotransmitter, so our moods. It houses 90% of our immune system. It's responsible for breaking down the food we eat and absorbing the life-sustaining nutrients from them and preventing irritants and toxins from reaching our brain. So if there's a breach somewhere in the digestive system, toxins can reach our brain. So specifically, what does the stomach do? I guess we don't want to look at the stomach. Yes, we do. So the stomach has 3 basic functions, and it all kind of starts with our stomach acid, which is called hydrochloric acid, or HCl. So the hydrochloric acid is responsible for making an enzyme available to cleave our B vitamins from our food or from supplements. And these B vitamins are then available to us. And B vitamins are important for energy. It's important for our brain to prevent dementia. It's important for our moods. It's important, if you remember from last week, to the phase 1 detoxification that happens in our liver. So if we have low stomach acid, and think about those people who take antacids, that's a big problem when it comes to dementia, energy, and all of that. And some people are genetically predisposed, possibly not making a lot of stomach acid, and when they feel stressed, they'll make even less stomach acid, and that can be a huge problem as far as their ability to break down food, B vitamins, all of that, and sterilizing our food. So the hydrochloric acid does break down basically proteins into amino acids. Amino acids are essential for neurotransmitters again. We're talking about moods again. And if we don't have enough hydrochloric acid, these proteins will stay in the stomach longer before they get into the small intestine, and they can putrefy a little bit. And then this is a real important one. I don't think we don't stop and think about it. It's important that we sterilize our food or anything that comes into our mouth, into our body. And a lot of things come in via our food and touching other things and water and contamination. And if we're not making enough HCl, then that's going to open up a whole bridge here or a whole system where we're going to be prone to parasites and bacteria that's going to harm our digestive system and compromise it. So, again, you can have low stomach acid due to stress, due to a bug called H. pylori, which is very easy to test for a genetic predisposition, or if you're taking an antacid or proton inhibitor, you're at risk. You're at risk for causing problems throughout the entire body. And I know this, I was one of those who, when my digestive system was not working properly, and I know it was due to stress, that's initially what caused it. And then I think there's a lot of irritation. I had a lot of irritation to the stomach lining. You can actually buy hydrochloric acid over the counter, and I do recommend it for some of my people, my clients. And I was taking as many as 10 pills with each meal just to try to digest my food. It was insane. And now I might take one, rarely more than one, on rare occasions. I went from taking 10 to none to maybe one. Okay, just when I may be really stressed out. Okay, let's look at the small and large intestines. The small intestines are responsible for digestion and absorption. And the things that can get in the way of that is something called SIBO, which I'm going to talk about in the next two slides. And SIBO is an acronym for Small Intestinal Bowel Overgrowth. And I know, I'm assuming a lot of you don't realize this because I didn't for many years, that most of our bacteria resides in the large intestine. I always thought a lot of bacteria resided in the small intestine, but it doesn't, and it's not supposed to. And if that bacteria from our large intestine leaks into the small intestine, it wreaks huge havoc, and usually is the underlying cause of IBS. And most gastroenterologists do not know that. So I treat that. It's kind of tricky to treat, and it's very easy to diagnose, actually. Just with the breath test, it's very easy to diagnose, and unfortunately, too many doctors miss it. Some of the other things that can go awry with digestion and absorption is what we call leaky gut. So leaky gut is when actually the lining is breached. It's irritated, and it's breached for one reason or another. And there's little tiny holes, and actually food particles can escape and then gets into our system, and our body looks at these food particles as foreign bodies, and so they'll create an antibody, and then so there'll be a lot of food allergies. So I'm not a big proponent of food allergy testing. If it comes back where you're allergic to a lot of foods, then more than likely you have leaky gut and you need to repair that. So if there's a lot of gut stuff going on, I kind of look at that anyway. So what I have discovered is once we repair the gut, a lot of the foods that a person is allergic to, they are no longer allergic to them. And we, like in what we're doing here, we're taking out the biggest offenders, the dairy, the gluten, the grains. We're taking those offenders out and then seeing what happens. Well, let's go to the large intestine. Basically, the function of the large intestine is to eliminate waste and toxins. And what can interfere with that and cause havoc are parasites and yeast and bacterial infections, which will inflame and aggravate the large intestine. And constipation, too. There are two organs, well, kind of three, that play a big role in digestion, and that's the pancreas, and that's where our digestive enzymes are made, and there's a little duct that goes into the small intestine and utilized there. And then the liver is responsible for making bile, and that bile is stored in the gallbladder if you have a gallbladder. And then it's released into the small intestine. Now, the bile is responsible for breaking down fat. So if there is a block or problem with bile, then there's going to be a problem with breaking down and absorbing your fat. And let's look into that for a second, because I know a few people on this cleanse have issues and problems with fat metabolism and absorption. So some people, and it seems to kind of run in families, I've seen this, have a tough time making and releasing bile. And some of the signs of this is there can be an urgency to have a bowel movement, and it can be a loose bowel movement after eating a medium or high-fat meal. And other things that you can see where maybe there is a fat absorption is compromised is that the stools may float, it means there's fat in them, and or they're light in color, which means there's not bile in the stools. And then we can also wonder if there's not enough fat absorption if you have dandruff or flaky scalp or dry skin or redness and patchiness around the eyes. So those are all an indication that you might not be absorbing your fat. And other indications would be that if you took a blood test and your fat-soluble vitamin level was low, and possibly also if you have low hormones, then that could be a result of not absorbing your fat, because in order to absorb our fat soluble vitamins, we have to be able to absorb fat. In women, we often will see gallbladder issues after pregnancy. And what helps with this is a couple things. So I'm going to list them here. Usually the diet that's prescribed by doctors is the exact opposite of what you need. And what they usually prescribe is to increase grains and kind of have a bland diet and reduce your fats. And actually, it is the opposite. You need to reduce your grains. That is part of the problem. And actually increase your fat slowly but surely, so you don't have a reaction, you don't have a dumping. Slowly but surely, methodically. And I've done that with some of my clients, and it has worked very well. The other thing that can help is to use a digestive enzyme with your meals that has ox bile in it. So specifically, there's digestive enzymes out there that do not have ox bile, B-I-L-E, and you want one that specifically has that. Your olive oil and lemon in the morning can help move the bile out. The castor oil wraps that I talked about last week, that's mentioned in your notebook, can also help move bile and just help the health of your liver in general. And then coffee enemas, believe it or not, will stimulate the bile duct. And because caffeine's a stimulant, it will stimulate the bile duct, and it actually will cause a peristalsis and kind of squeeze the bile out. And it's very helpful. And if anyone is interested in knowing how to do a coffee enema, I have a recipe and I can send that to you. There are gallbladder cleanses, and if you know in fact you have gallbladder stones or you have a problem with fat digestion, I would suggest that you look into a gallbladder cleanse. You can look on that online. And if the doctor ever tells you you need to have your gallbladder removed because there's stones, I would do everything that I mentioned here first before you have your gallbladder removed, because there are problems on down the road for a lot of people once they have the gallbladder removed. And again, that's where your bile is stored. The liver makes it, the gallbladder stores it. Once the gallbladder goes away, the liver will drip bile into your digestive system all the time, and that can be a problem. Another thing, one last thing that can be helpful is D-limonene. It's a food-grade essential oil, and what that is the oils from the rind of citrus. So that can also be very helpful to stimulate bile. I do want to just touch on SIBO here because a lot of people do suffer from it, and it's come on the forefront probably within the last 2-3 years, thank goodness. And again, it's an acronym for small intestinal bowel overgrowth, and what are the signs and the symptoms. This poor person here is either straining, so constipation is a big one, and so is loose stools and diarrhea and bloating. So, you know, all of this is our signs and symptoms. You can have only 1 or 2 of these and still have it. So what I usually do, depending on what the symptoms are, I'll either have my clients do a SIBO test, and again, that's just a simple breath test. I do have those, or if I feel like a stool test will give us more information, I'll have them do that. The stool test that I use, that functional medicine doctors use, and other doctors as well, but unfortunately most gastroenterologists do not. We're looking for way more than blood in the stools and maybe H. pylori. We're looking for the function. We're looking for fat. We're looking to see if you have enough enzymes, if things are being broken down. We look for inflammation. We look for good bacteria, bad bacteria. We look for parasites. It's very comprehensive. And then we can go in and start working on it. Okay. So what are the gut's biggest enemies? We need to know that. We need to know how to take care of our guts. So not all this bad stuff happens. So, of course, your bad, irritating food, which includes your processed foods, your fiberless foods, your chemically sugar-laden foods, your GMOs. All of this is the SAD diet, the standard American diet. So all of these will irritate your gut lining and change, actually, the bacteria. It's interesting. They've done studies recently where they can measure what's happening with the bacteria just by eating certain foods. So if you give somebody a meal that's laden with rancid, bad fats, and sugar, and all sorts of yucky stuff, it will actually change the bacteria within a couple hours. And the inverse is true as well. When you give somebody, you feed your bacteria good food, it will grow and proliferate. So what we eat changes what our bacteria does. And remember, we have 100 trillion bacteria, 10 times more DNA than our own DNA. So they talk real loudly to us. They kind of take over. Antibiotics kill off our good bacteria. So if you've had a lot of antibiotics in your life and you haven't re-inoculated your body with good probiotics, there's a chance that your digestive system is set up for a lot of harm. Medications, a lot of people don't realize what medications do, including hormones, hormone replacements, and progesterone, and even estrogen. Birth control pills can totally change the flora. And I've experienced this with hormone replacement. I cannot take oral progesterone. It totally changes my bacteria and wreaks havoc. Steroids can also wreak havoc on the digestive system and the bacteria. Acid blockers, we touched on that, so Nexium, things like that, can cause a problem in the stomach area. And Benadryl, something as simple as aspirin, including baby aspirin, can not only be a problem on the liver, but definitely a problem for the stomach. And I know that doctors hand out baby aspirin as a prophylactic intervention against heart disease, for heart attacks and strokes. And if any of you are taking a baby aspirin, if any of you know of anyone taking a baby aspirin, the next time you go to your doctor, I would like you to ask him, and actually any time you get a medication, please ask them, what is this for? And they'll say, probably to prevent heart disease. Okay? How? Always ask the how. So with baby aspirin, or any type of aspirin, it will reduce inflammation, which is an underlying cause of heart disease, fair enough. And it can also thin your blood, fair enough. But you know what else can thin your blood and reduce inflammation naturally? Omega-3 fatty acids. And they do a heck of a lot more other good as well. So the next time, maybe ask, okay, well, but omega-3s do that too. I'd like to stop taking my baby aspirin. and increase my omega-3s. What do you think about that, Doc? And even if they don't agree with you, I highly recommend that you do that. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Okay, food allergies. Gluten, dairy, anything else is a big enemy. Pathogens, which includes your parasites and your yeast overgrowth, and of course caffeine and alcohol irritates the stomach lining. Oh, the last one, stress. Stress can actually irritate the stomach lining and the intestinal lining, and it can cause a person to either hold on to stools or, which is the waste product, right, of our digestion, which is very toxic and can be reabsorbed back in the body. Or some people, when they're stressed, then increases the peristalsis of the bowel, of the colon, and it pushes the waste out without the water being absorbed. So either way, stress is a big factor. And we know that when we're stressed, we get that big kind of lump in our stomach and our enzymes don't work as well. So we have to learn how to calm ourselves down. And there's a new book out. I haven't read it, but it's called The Urban Monk, M-O-N-K. And I am very curious to see what, oh gosh, I can't remember the author's name, but I've heard him on many different summits, and I do like what he has to say. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say about, how to weave in meditation and taking a time out with our busy schedules, because it's important. And don't forget, sleep really helps with reducing stress as well, as Maria so eloquently pointed out. And by the way, some of the other food allergies, including soy and eggs for some people. If you think you might have a food allergy to eggs, or you're having some problems now, take your eggs out for next week as well and see if that's helpful. So to heal the digestive system, there's about 4 different, we call them the 4R protocol. So you want to remove what's bothering, what's causing a problem, replace it with good things, re-inoculate it with things like probiotics, and repair it. So it's kind of, sometimes we do it separately. Most of the time we're doing at least 2 or 3 of these steps at the same time. So I'm just going to hit, things that you want to remove would be allergy-causing foods, your parasites, your pathogens, your bad bacteria, your yeast, if you have SIBO, stressors, even if that means people, okay, remove them, get them out, kindly, if you have to. Caffeine and alcohol, sugar, artificial chemicals and toxins, and medication. So these are the things that you want to remove, because there's a lot of inflammation from all of these things, and if we don't remove it, the inflammation is going to continue. So I can throw, like, if someone comes into me and they've got symptoms, they've got bloating, they've got constipation, I can throw at them things like stomach acid, the HCl, digestive enzymes. I can give them things which can help repair, but if we're stuck over here and we've got all these things still going on, they're going to be taking the things I'm going to give them to help feel better forever and ever, and we're not going to get anywhere. So remove is very, very important, and to discover what we need to remove is extremely important. And this is where mainstream medicine really fails the person with digestive issues. Okay, we want to re-inoculate with probiotics with Saccharomyces boulardii, which is a yeast that kills the yeast. You can buy that separately. There are some products, there's one by Orthomolecular that I really like, that combines both a really good probiotic and this yeast. You want to include fermented foods, which would be your sauerkraut, kombucha, kefir, and your yogurts. Now, if you have SIBO, you have that bacteria growing up in your small intestine, you're probably not going to like fermented foods. Okay, so just know that. And you might not be able to do it for a while. Prebiotics, SIBO, if you have that, your body's also not going to like that. But for the rest of us, prebiotics, which is the food for our bacteria, which is a probiotic, right? It feeds them, so then they multiply in a good way. So we get our prebiotics from blueberries and bananas, especially green bananas, chicory, something called inulin, and inulin actually has a slight sweetness to it, and you can cook with it, and insoluble fiber and potato starch. And so I'm going to allow you to have one more type of flour, and that is potato starch flour, not potato flour, but potato starch flour. It's different, and it is a starch that is non-inflammatory. It does not raise your blood sugar levels, and actually, I would say it's paleo legal. Um, and you start off slow, like maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon, and then maybe work up to a couple tablespoons. But this is something that can help the reinoculation of your bacteria. Repairing the mucosal lining is very important, and I bolded and italicized the ones that I really like to use. Coconut oil, and you can get that from coconut milk, or you can put coconut oil in your shakes if you want. Or the oil pooling, swishing around with the oil. Bone broth is a big one again, I'm going to mention that. Zinc harnessing is something that will heal the stomach lining beautifully, will help increase the production of HCl. All of these are very good and soothing. L-glutamine, which is a tasteless powder, it's in your shakes. For those of you who are doing the shakes, a high amount of glutamine is in them for repair. There are immunoglobulins that I will give to my clients that are really suffering with a lot of food allergies. It just helps promote immunoglobulins, so it's very soothing. Let's see. Essential fatty acids, adrenal function. So again, we can repair the digestive system by repairing the adrenals. There's a very close relationship between digestive health and the health of your adrenals, and it's kind of a catch-22. They go back and forth with each other. So if your adrenals are not repaired, it's going to be really hard to get total repair of the digestive system, and vice versa. If your digestive system is irritated and inflamed, it's going to affect your adrenal glands, which we're going to talk about more next week. Okay, so let's see. I do want to remind you that you do get, a little plug here, but I want to let you know, remind you, you get 20% off supplements that you need if it's Zymogen brand, and most of what I use is Zymogen. And I'm hoping you'll take advantage of that because they're very high quality, and it's at 20%, so it's a good deal. Okay. I'm going to get to quick notes for this coming week. Okay, so we're on to your eating plan. Basically, you're going to continue eating food from your allowed list with these exceptions. No grains at all, just for this week, okay? Just for this week. No buckwheat, no quinoa. I will allow the potato starch flour and your almond flour and your coconut flour and your cricket flour, but no buckwheat or quinoa. No dairy, milk, or cheese. You can do a nut cheese. You can do a coconut yogurt or milk, okay, or almond milk. And so what this means is a little more fat and veggies. And for those of you who have a little bit of a harder time with fat, just increase it slowly, okay? And maybe you need to have a little more starchy vegetables just to keep you full, since you're taking out the other really complex carbohydrates. For those of you who don't have a problem with fat, I would like you to increase your fat a little bit and increase your non-starchy vegetables to fill you up. I don't want you to be hungry, okay? I do want you to be reasonable with your portion sizes, but a reminder is you want your plate to be at least a half or 2/3 full of lots of colors, your veggies, salads, things like that, and a little bit of protein and a little bit of fat. So that's how your plate should look. I do want to encourage you to try one recipe from the collection of recipes. One a week is, for most people, manageable, and it expands your horizons and expands, it lets you know that you can actually eat very well and be very happy without a lot of the garbage that you were eating before. And so it'll help you stay on this type of eating plan at least 80% of the time. And that's what I'm looking for, okay? If we can do this 80% of the time, if you can do this 80% of the time, it's going to change your life. That's the transformation. Okay, if you can incorporate bone broth and green drinks this week, this is just a reminder, one or the other or both, if you're ready to do that. And here again, just remember, some of you, this is the second time. Even for some of you, it's your third time. So for some of you, it's your first time. And a lot of this is new to you, so you do what you can, okay? You might want to check out something called Pete's Paleo for home delivery of paleo meals. It's not cheap, and I haven't tried it, so I don't know, but it's available. And if you were to look at how much you would pay if you're going out to eat, then I think it becomes a lot less expensive. And you don't have to do it for every meal, maybe just a couple meals a week, okay? Local places to eat, and this is in the Orange County area, Mendocino Farms at UCI and on the peninsula. Oh, no, Mendocino Farms at UCI and then off of 17th Street in Costa Mesa. And then Bear Flag Fish Company, I really like them. There's one at Crystal Cove Center and then also on the peninsula. Okay. I just want to point out on page 49 that you have some additional menu ideas there, and I actually changed a few here from your book. On the dinner, I took out the swordfish, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And I moved over the stir-fried chicken and added cauliflower rice, and I'll tell you about that in just a second. And what else did I do? I added chicken to the summer squash pasta, and then I took out the beans for the grilled flank steak and added guacamole. So you can keep the beans in, but I kind of want to do it without it, okay, and just do a little more fat there. So these are just some ideas, and you'll notice, if you haven't noticed already, that I put in MCT oil in some of the nut butter smoothies. And I just want to talk about MCT oil for just a minute. MCT oil is actually extracted from coconut oil. It's a medium chain triglyceride. It's a type of fat that our body can use very easily for energy. So it is more for a ketogenic type of diet. A lot of people, when they take MCT oil, they feel satiated for many, many hours. Now, I am one of those who cannot really tolerate the MCT oil. I've tried it, and I get very gassy and uncomfortable. So if you do try it, start out slow, and if it doesn't mess with you, use it. It's really good for you, okay? The other thing I want to talk about is I did find some things at TJ's, at Trader Joe's I want to share with you. So the cauliflower rice cauliflower rice is in the frozen section. It's just cauliflower, and I haven't used it yet. I'm just assuming it's just basically grated cauliflower, which we could do on our own, but here it is, it's already made, which is nice and convenient. The other thing I found in the frozen section was root vegetables, the root vegetable fries. They were okay. There was way too many carrots and not enough other root vegetables in it. But having said that, I always like to encourage and recommend that you have some frozen vegetables in your freezer so that it's really easy for you to pull out. You're never short of vegetables. Never, ever, ever. Okay? So those are two that you might want to add to your repertoire. I would love for you guys to share your discoveries and places to eat and to buy things as well. Oh, one other thing. If you like eating tuna, I have a suggestion, and that is to replace it with sardines. It tastes just about the same as tuna does, but it doesn't have the mercury in it because it's a small little fish. and prepare it like you would a tuna salad, except for what I find, since sardines are usually packed in oil, that you don't really need the mayonnaise. You might need other spices. And then since there's no bread, and I think the hardest thing for people is maybe breakfast and lunch without grains. And yeah, you have to kind of make a shift, and we get so stuck on breakfast food as being cereal and something bready, and I still am too. Um, I like my muffin in the morning, but I'm making it almond meal muffin, making it um, paleo friendly type of bread. So I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, instead of putting the tuna fish or sardines on bread, I used to recommend on the rice cakes, but you can't have that this week. But putting it on those little seaweed strips and kind of rolling it up like a little burrito. And my sweetie actually came up with that, and it was really good. It was really tasty. I will say this, that I think Trader Joe's uses cold expelled pressed canola oil. Canola oil is GMO. The fact that it's expelled pressed is better. It can't be perfect, but if anyone finds rice or seaweed little strips that's made with a good oil, let me know. Ah, someone has tried the cauliflower rice from TJ's, and they said it was very good. Thanks, Jolene. Okay. Okay, so we have someone verifying that. Let's see, what else do we have here? We're almost there, you guys. Okay, so I just like to remind you of your additional tools that you do have, because we forget. The importance of other modalities to help us cope with life and it completes a whole picture. So I've got this list in the next slide with that have other things on it. And if you could just try one new thing this week, that would be great. And so we've got the meditation and breathing and journaling and taking time out. And just want to remind you that going on Facebook is not taking time out. Try to move your body, even if it's just walking for 30 minutes, 5 days out of this week. Just try that, just this week, 30 minutes, 5 days this week. Got to remember that exercise moves the sludge out of us by moving the blood, oxygenating it, and it increases our metabolism and it de-stresses. It's so essential. Sweat, remember your skin is your biggest elimination organ. Take your saunas, do vegan yoga, vigorous activities, your Epsom salt baths. Treat yourself. Get a massage. And I don't like deep tissue, by the way, myself. But if you can tolerate it, do that. Just get a massage. And, it stimulates our lymph system. So does yoga, stimulate our lymph system. And it helps to move toxins out. I already mentioned the Epsom salt baths. Do that. Your coffee enema, infrared saunas, a loofah, colon hydrotherapy. So any one of these. Okay. So I am done. I would like to give you guys a couple moments here for you to write in your chat box any questions or comments that you might have, anything you want to share with us. So I'll be quiet for just a couple minutes. It seems to take a couple minutes for you guys before those questions come up and are visible to me. And while possibly you are doing that, I do want to say that judging from feedback, you guys are working it and doing great and making great strides. And I hope you give yourselves a lot of credit for all the things and all the changes that you're making perfectly or imperfectly. Okay, so Kinsey says, I've been super tired this week. That can happen. And so the things I would look at would be hormones. I would also look at, are you getting enough to eat? Are you consuming enough calories? So what is your fat like? And this is a reminder too, use myfitnesspal.com because it's really hard to get an idea of really what we're eating. And I want you guys to be eating enough, so you have to look at that. Sometimes we can feel tired if we're detoxing a lot. Um, it can just make us fatigued. Our body's working a little bit harder. So try to honor that and try to get in a little more sleep if and when you can. Okay, so that would be helpful. Drink plenty of water. If you're taking your med caps, that's going to help to get things out. So hopefully you'll feel better soon. Okay, and not so tired. I was actually really, really tired yesterday too, and I don't know why. I have no clue. Other than I ate a steak last night and I felt better today. I don't know if it's correlated. So maybe Kinsey, you and I are on the same wavelength here. Okay. All right, I don't see any more questions coming in. If they come up later on, please email me. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being on this journey together and with me. And have a wonderful rest of your evening and a wonderful rest of your week. And I will be talking to and with you next Thursday. Alrighty.